Our next guest will be fighting Royce Gracie at Bellator 149 in a big card. He is a legend in MMA, fighting in companies like the UFC and also with a great pro wrestling run in the WWE. It's our pleasure to welcome back Ken Shamrock to Submission Radio. Ken, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me back.
It's great having you, Ken. Now, you almost tricked us when Kurt Angle went out to announce the fight. Whose idea was it to do it like that and get fans to think that it was possibly a fight between you and Kurt?
I'm not sure. Not sure who came up with that. I kind of just, I just went with the program, and I didn't know who set it up.
Now, fans were a little bit disappointed when they found out it wasn't Kurt Angle who was going to fight you. We know it's a bit of a stretch, but do you think a fight between the both of you will ever happen, especially now that Kurt is seemingly working alongside Bellator?
For me, I love fighting fights that are fun for me, and that makes sense for the fans. So obviously that's one that does. It does sound fun. It does, definitely will make sense for me. But again, right now I have a big fight with Royce Gracie, and nothing right at this point in time really matters to me but that fight.
Well, Ken, you and Royce obviously have a bit of history. Why exactly did you want this third fight with him?
I've wanted it for a very long time. I've always felt like, the second fight that we had, I clearly won, although they didn't have judges. But for whatever reason, he keeps saying it was a draw, that I laid on him, and that, I didn't come to fight to win. And it kind of stuck wrong with me because it's like, here's a guy that got carried out of the ring, who couldn't have gone another round, and was beat up pretty bad, and then doesn't give me credit. Whereas when I lost to him, I gave him credit. The guy beat me. They had to take a few things away from me in order for that to happen, like my shoes and things of that nature. But you know what? My whole focus was, okay, give me another shot at him, and I don't want to put any excuses in there. And so when I got the other shot at him again, they put the time limit in there, which was fine. But he got carried out of the ring, and he was literally beat to hell. And yet he still is putting the blame on me that I just laid on him and that I didn't do anything. And I'm thinking to myself, did you see the pictures? Have you looked at the fight? For you to say that, the gullible. How do you say that when you can get the hell beat out of you?
Well, Dana White was here in Melbourne this past weekend, and when he was asked about the fight, he basically said that two 50-year-old guys fighting each other is crazy, and he hopes that no one gets hurt. What do you think about his comments, and do you think people are right in being concerned about this matchup?
It's sad that we are at this point, after we've gone through so much in our world, to get across to people that you could do things, whatever you want to do, just as long as you're able to stay within the rules and the guidelines and be able to do the things you need to do to be able to do those things, and that you should never quit. You should always move forward and try to do things that you want to do, accomplish the goals that you want to accomplish. And yet we're standing here in 2015 and we are discriminating against age. When does it stop? We go in the ring and we fight just the same as anybody else does, and we pass the physicals and we do the things that we need to do to be able to get in the ring and fight. And yet we're standing here today after we've gone through the racism of black people, and we've gone through the women's rights and the Japanese, with World War, and putting them in the work camps because they looked Japanese. I thought we had gotten past all this, and yet today we're sitting here and we're discriminating against two individuals who have proven themselves in the world of MMA, who are at very, very high level and are very good shape and will pass any physical they need to get in the ring and fight. And we've got a few of the people out there that want to use discrimination as their case.
Well, it's an interesting point. Let's set the record straight, Ken. How is the body feeling? What kind of shape are you in now? And are you feeling like this could be a very good version of you come fight night?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I thought when I got back in and I fought Kimbo, I really thought that I had that fight won, and I made a mistake, but I also believe that I wasn't allowed to continue fighting out of a bad situation. It was stopped very quickly. And I really believed that I was still coherent. I wasn't unconscious. And I really thought that I should have had the opportunity to be able to fight out of a bad situation, just as he did when I had the choke in, the full-blown choke in. And so, you know, if they allow that fight to happen the way it should have probably happened, which is allow us to fight and for the fighters to finish the fight, I believe that the outcome would have been very different. But it didn't, and it happened the way it happened. But it should not take away the shape that I was in and the condition that I was in and the ability of what I was able to do in there. It shouldn't take that away. And I felt good. And in fact, my shots were smooth. I felt like I could take him down at will, and I felt stronger than him, and I was able to control him. So all those things going into that fight, I felt very confident and very good. Other than a few things that happened in it, was just out of my control. And there's nothing I could do about that. But other than the feeling and how I felt and my conditioning and everything, I felt tremendous.
And then for all those people out there who are criticizing you because of that fight, because it did finish so quickly, what's your message to them? Like, what would your message be to them? Why should they tune into this big fight with Royce?
Well, I mean, it's if you're going to want to watch it, fine. It's a fight. And it's two guys that have been in the ring and have fought some of the best fighters in the world and still have some juice left in the tank. And if you want to watch it, then yeah, tune in. It's going to be a great fight. But if you're literally leaning on the fact that we can't get in the ring and fight anymore, then you're going to miss a great fight. So you tune in and watch it or don't. But like I said, I think this is going to be a great fight. I think two guys that really want to put an explanation on this trilogy that we're going to have here, and both of us want to win it very badly, and both of us are going to do everything in our power through training and through conditioning and through technique to win this fight.
Well, game plan-wise, what's your plan to take on Royce? He hasn't fought in a long time. Is any part of you underestimating him in this fight?
Absolutely not. The guy spends his whole life in the gym. Whether he's in the ring fighting or not, his technique and everything's going to be very good. So I'm going to do what I do, and that's go in there and impose my will.
The fact that you got into the cage recently and fought, potentially shaking off some cage ruts, do you think that puts you in an advantage over Royce?
I think anybody that hasn't fought in a long time comes in at a disadvantage no matter who they are, whether it's Royce or anybody else. When you don't get in the ring and fight for a period of time, you're going to come in at a disadvantage.
You guys are both known primarily for your grappling skills. What do you think? Do you think this fight will take place mainly on the ground, or do you think you might try and take advantage of Royce on the feet?
Well, I'm definitely going to take advantage of Royce on his feet, but I also believe this thing's going to end up on the ground. There's no question. But I think that whether it's standing up or on the ground, he's going to take tremendous punishment.
Because you guys obviously have that background, you've already had the two fights, this is the trilogy, this is kind of the one that, will sort of put an end to it. Is part of you wanting to go in there and submit Royce Gracie just to make, a huge statement? Well,
I mean, making a statement is winning a fight. Whether I submit him or knock him out is irrelevant to me. Royce is a dangerous person, he's got tremendous skills on the ground. He's got tremendous ability to be able to smother punches and be able to clinch and get a takedown. So, I'm going to go after what's there. But the one thing that will not happen is it won't go to a decision because I'm going to make sure of that, because I believe without a shadow of a doubt that if I impose my will on him and I come after him and I push the pace, that I will break him.
I'm just wondering, this thing's been going on for a while. How personal is this for you? What are your thoughts on Royce as a person and as a fighter? Is he someone that you have ill will towards, or is he someone that you respect because he's been in the game, for as long as you have?
I respect Royce for what he's able to do in the ring, especially in the early on UFC with his size and what he was able to do. He changed the world on how people thought about little guys fighting big guys. I mean, we proved it. And I thought what Royce did during those times was tremendous, and it'll never be done again. So I have tremendous respect for him on what he did. But what I don't have respect for somebody that isn't able to give credit or props or even anything to somebody who may have done a good job against him. He, for some reason, wants to make excuses of why something happened. You know, that second fight that we had, he got beat up. And whether it was a win on the judges or not, I think it's pretty obvious he got beat up. And yet he'll come back and say, I laid on him and that I didn't fight him. And I'm thinking to myself, where did all those bruises and your swollen face and the blood come from if I was just laying on you?
Obviously, you guys have been around each other at some Bellator events. Have you ever had a chance to speak to him about those thoughts? Have you ever shared those feelings towards him about that he never really sort of gave you the props that you deserved?
No, because I figure those are things that, you know, I want to stay cordial with people. I don't want to start any friction with anybody, especially outside the ring. So I just let it go. And but I've always, like I said, in the back of my mind, I've always wanted the opportunity to be able to get in the ring and you know, once and for all, just shut him up. They're like, listen, I respect what he's done, and he's tremendous, and things that he did, and I respect that. But it's about time he starts giving respect to other people, not just himself.
When you say respect to other people, Ken, are you saying that he hasn't shown respect to other people other than yourself, or are we strictly speaking just yourself?
No, I mean, it's to everybody. I mean, it's Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and everything else sucks.
It's interesting because the biggest criticism of him has been that in a lot of interviews and a lot of things that he speaks about, he really doesn't sort of acknowledge the other parts of MMA. Would you say that obviously Gracie Jiu-Jitsu has done a lot for MMA, but there's been other factors in MMA that has helped the development of it to get to the point that it's at today?
Listen, it's like this. When I came into the arena and fought in the UFC, it was an advertisement for Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and it was clinch and takedown. You didn't have to punch, you didn't have to strike. You could bring people to the ground, you could finish them there because it's the best style in the world. Well, I think we found out pretty clearly after about 2.5 years, that the strikers said, "Oh yeah, well we learned to stop a takedown and we knocked you out," and so it transitioned to the strikers winning. And then the rappers got smart and said, listen, we can't follow this tradition of being able to take somebody down and finish him because they're learning how to fight and stand back up. And we're getting tired, and then we have to try to shoot and take them down again, and pretty soon we get tired and they're going to knock us out. And so now we have to learn how to strike. So they threw out that thing that the Gracies had always said was like, you know, just clinch, take them down, you can finish them, you don't need to learn to strike. Well, that got thrown out after about 2 years of people trying to just do jiu-jitsu because they were getting knocked out after a while. So it evolved into what I brought into it in the very beginning, which was a well-rounded fighter, a striker, a guy who could punch and kick, but also do submissions on the ground. And I introduced that, the first one to be able to walk into that ring and do both. And that's what it is today.
Do you think that that's going to be another big advantage come fight night at Bellator 149, that you may be the more well-rounded fighter in that cage?
Well, and I say this, and I said it before, is that he needs to wake up and realize the game has changed. And he hasn't changed with it.
Now, it is an open weight fight. I mean, it's very interesting. What weight do you think that you'll come in at?
I'm not sure, but I know it'll be under 205.
Because I know in the Kimbo fight, Ken, you came around the 205 limit, and yet it was a heavyweight fight. Do you think you'll be over 205 or under this time?
No, I'll be under because that's just where my weight goes. If for a long time I was able to hold 217 or 220, but I just can't hold that weight anymore. When I start training and I start getting in shape, I get around 199 and 202, and that's just where I'm at.
Now let's speak about the other big fight on the card, Kimbo versus Data 5000. If Kimbo does beat Data and you do beat Royce, does a part of you want a rematch with Kimbo after the way things went down in your first fight?
You know, right now, nothing matters right now. You know, what can and could be after this, we'll talk about. But right now, man, I'm telling you, nothing matters right now. The only thing is that I want to be able to have the opportunity to get in and go against Royce and have absolutely no advantages one way or the other. Just two guys going in there fighting with the same rules and with the same advantages.
I'm just quickly on Royce. He said something recently about how he may have the advantage. It's not so much about being younger than you, but because he's taken care of his body and he's been healthy and things like that, he thinks that will be one of the advantages come fight night. What do you think about that? Because from every time we've spoken to you, Ken, and had you on the show, you've always talked about how you've taken care of your body and lived a very healthy lifestyle as well.
Well, again, I guess he's not. He hasn't been paying attention very closely because I've always taken care of my body and always made sure that I stayed fit. And so I'm not sure what he's saying or how he's saying it or what he means by it. But he'll find out come fight night that he's going to run into a wall of a guy who's very strong, in great shape, and is going to have a very good, very, very good movement on the ground and standing up. So I'm just interested to see how he's talking, because it seems like he's talking from the past, and he seems like he's talking from yesteryear. His confidence and his cockiness is coming from yesteryear, because he hasn't been in the ring in a while. I have, but he's still got that same attitude, like he's just going to walk in and take people down and sub them. And I think he's going to have a rude awakening.
How would one prepare for this fight? Obviously, in your last camp, you mentioned that you're really focused. I believe you stayed in a caravan and really focused on your training. What are you planning on doing this time around? Who will you be working with? What will be the game plan for your training?
Yeah, I'm going to be going to Dallas, Texas, and I'm going to be working with Guy Mesger. I'm going to bring back some of the old school guys. Even Frank may stop in, my brother Frank, a little bit here and there, and kind of give us a little bit of some jiu-jitsu tips and stuff on what we can do. So I'm going to bring in all the guys, the old school guys, to really help out with this one. So I'm going up to Dallas, Texas with Guy Mesker, and I'm doing my training camp up there.
Fantastic. Now, you recently did a video, I believe it was with Bobby Razak, where you mentioned how you're still pretty hurt by the comments Joe Rogan made about the Kimbo fight and how he alluded to it being staged. You mentioned that Joe hides behind his mic and says things that aren't true and that he should have come to you first. I'm just wondering, now that it's been a while, is there a way for him to make things right with you, for his comments? And are you planning on confronting him about those comments if you have an opportunity in the future, if you guys ever cross paths?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure why he said it. And I was pretty frustrated with it because, you're looking at ruining the guy's credibility and credibility. I mean, I'm not. People shouldn't say that stuff, especially when they're supposed to be in a position to where people are supposed to trust them, and they've been put in that position by the fan base, and they're holding these different talk shows. And if they say something, then they need to make sure that they're held accountable for the things that they're saying. And if it's not true, then something needs to happen, and he needs to be pulled off the radio. You can't do that when you hurt somebody. I mean, it's no difference to me walking up and punching somebody in the face. That's a physical thing. But what about ruining somebody's reputation or saying something that could ruin somebody's whole life? It's the same thing.
Is there, I mean, obviously, you've sort of had feuds with people in the past, such as like Dana White and other people, but a lot of those have been made right now. Is there something that Joe can do to sort of make things right?
First of all, if he was going to try to make anything right, he should go and remake his statement, because what he's saying is that he believes. And there's no facts or rhythm behind it, but it just looked to him. At least clarify what he's saying and not say that it was fixed.
Now, Ken, I know you're focused mainly on or pretty much solely on this Royce Gracie fight, but, being fight fans, we can't help but speculate and talk about the hypotheticals. Another possibly huge matchup for you in the future could be against Fedor Emelianenko. He's fighting in Japan in December, but if you both end up winning, would you somewhere down the road like to do a Fedor Shamrock super fight?
I don't know. Like I said, none of that's even been talked about. My focus right now is really focused on the fight February 19th against Royce, and really that's just my focus. After that, then I'll look to see what else is out there. But right now I really want that one, and I'm really focusing my mind and my training and my time just on that fight.
Now, Ken, before we let you go, because we know how busy you are, there was a very big fight here in Melbourne last weekend. Would like to get your thoughts on the Ronda Rousey versus Holly Holm fight. Don't know if you got a chance to watch it, but what did you think of it? Because a lot of people were blown away by the result.
I wasn't blown away. I felt like that if anybody was going to beat her, it would be Holly Holmes. Because if you watched, and being a fighter, if you watched Ronda has always taken punishment in the first part of the fights with people that don't even know how to strike, people who were just banging with her. And Ronda got the worst end of all of that until she took him down. And then she was able to ground him out and submit him. But she took punishment from every one of those girls, and they weren't even really that great strikers. Now you got one that's an absolute stud in striking, and Ronda did the same thing she's always done, and all Holly Holmes did, which was the master plan, that to beat Ronda was to always back up, and Ronda's going to chase you because she's not afraid of anybody, and she can take a punch, and she don't mind taking punches. So Holly just said, okay, fine, I'll just back up and I'll cater you. I'll keep punching you until you figure it out. And the problem with it is that Ronda never figured it out. Holly just kept backing up. She stepped in and hit her with a hook, a punch, whatever was there, bang, 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 she'd back up again. Ronda would come forward again and do the same thing, just walk straight in, bang, 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 and she'd back up. And pretty soon she hit Ronda enough to where she was off balance, and then she threw a kick and kicked her in the head. But Ronda has always been very, very, very bad about defending strikes.
Well, let me ask you this, Ken. Do you think that Ronda can come back stronger from this loss and potentially become champion again? Or do you think that stylistically wise, Holly Holm is just too tough of a matchup?
I think it's going to be a tough matchup, but I think she can do it. I really do. I think if she'll change her game plan, which I really thought, and I was surprised that they didn't change it up because of who Holly is. Holly is a great striker. She's not a journeyman. She is a professional. And I was really shocked to see the game plan that they came in with her coming forward like that, just walking straight in, because that was the method of beating her, was letting her come to Holly and Holly back up and just keep punching her and backing her up with the jab and hitting her with the right hand. I mean, it was a perfect setup, and I was really shocked that the training staff in her corner did not make her circle or at least try to back up and get Holly to come to her. It was like constant forwardness, and it was a recipe for disaster.
Well, just quickly, and we'll let you go in just a second, Ken, but let's say you were training Ronda, let's say she was in the Lions Den. What advice would you have given her? What do you think the game plan would have been in that fight? How do you beat someone like Holly Holm?
I'd have had her circling to the left and try to get around her and keep pressing forward, but don't punch. And press and make Holly throw punches and then get under her and take her down, or at least get her to the fence. But don't punch, because that's when she's open. I would have not made her like she does every time, is come straight out and straight in and just go forward. I would have had her circling the ring and changing angles and keeping her hands up and try to force a clinch. But, she just came straight out, straight in and throwing punches, and, Holly's a pro. And, there's just no way she can win that battle.
She's definitely in a point in her career that she's never been in, losing in a way like that. You've been around the sport for a really long time, and you've seen it all. If Ronda Rousey was listening to this program, what's one piece of advice you could give her to sort of bounce back from this whole situation?
Well, I'd go back and look at the tapes of her last 3 or 4 fights, and watch the transition from those fights going into where she lost the fight. And she'll see it was the same thing over and over again. She would come in and do the same thing she did in that fight. The only difference was she got a professional in there that was a professional striker. Wasn't a journeyman, but was a professional, one of the best in the world at striking. And so look at that and then understand how you beat that. And how you beat it is not standing in front of them, keeping your hands up and try to circle and get a clinch, not to strike with them.
Well, Ken, obviously the big focus in your life is Royce Gracie on February 19th, the Bellator 149. Before we let you go, we got to know, what's the prediction, the official prediction? How are you beating Royce Gracie, Bellator 149?
Nah, I don't do that because that's always a bad jinx. I'm going to take whatever happens out there. I can guarantee you this. It won't go to a decision. I will make sure that the fight gets finished. I'm not going to be standing out there trying to win points, man. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to finish the fight.
Well, there you guys go. Check Ken out of Bellator 149, February 19th. Take on his longtime rival, Royce Gracie. And follow Ken Shamrock on Twitter at Shamrock Ken as well. Check out his website, www.kenshamrock.com. Lots of great stuff there. Ken, best of luck and thank you for coming back on the program.
Appreciate it, guys.